So we talked about this working with real estate agents brochure. It's very, very critical. And this is very, very near and dear to the Real Estate Commission's heart, this brochure. All right, make sure it's done. The brochure that's given, right, the signature, what we're going to do, how we're going to explain agency, and then give them that big 3 or 4 page working with real estate brochures to let them answer their questions. It's very helpful, and it's helpful for you. I would strongly suggest you read it. All right, so question. Which best describes first substantial contact? A, buyer states that they really like the screened-in porches. B, the seller states they are considering listing their home within the next 2 months. C, the seller states that they must relocate within 30 days. And D, the buyer states that they prefer a 4-bedroom house. Yeah, we have some specificity there, right? So C, it is a must. They have to relocate. This is motivation, right? The rest is a wish list. All right. The rest is, it'd be nice, but it's not really what we're bringing home here. We need to be able to get that. All right. We want specifics. That is first substantial contact. Let's talk about the nature of the brokerage business just for a second here. We have a broker in charge. They're in charge, right? And we are a licensed associate. Our relationship is they hired us to do general agency. Remember, they're a special agent. We're a general agent. We talked about that the other day. Anybody who is a guardian or an attorney in fact is a universal agent. They can act for somebody else. All right. Now, as a provisional broker, when you get your first license, you're going to be a provisional broker until you do your post-license classes. All right. You're going to perform duties in that broker in charge's name. You're going to be like 1 and 1A, separated by not much, right? Not much. So you're going to work together hand in hand, okay? You're going to get paid as the provisional broker through the firm. Your broker in charge is going to pay you. Now, this used to be different for full brokers where they could get paid from the other firm. That can't happen anymore. The law has been changed so that everybody has to get paid through the broker in charge. He has to distribute the money through the clearing and through the earnest money accounts, right, or through the accounts. All right, so everybody gets paid through the broker in charge. Now, the word broker, provisional broker, is only a status. Every agent's a broker. We have broker in charge, we have provisional broker, we have full broker, right? We have broker in charge eligible, all right, depending on your status and your education level. Most of us will be full brokers. Then if we want to, 2 years down the road, we can become a broker in charge eligible or a BIC eligible if we want to be in our own business. We can do that as we go forward. If not, once you get through that, you can do a broker in charge. Now, in most cases, probably all cases, you're going to be an independent contractor. Most agreements are with ICAs, all right, ICAs, all right, independent contractor agreements. Rarely do you get hired as an employee. You might if you're a property manager. You might if you're doing other menial tasks through, working for the company. They might pay you some stipend, but for your real estate work, you're probably going to be an independent contractor. Now, what does that mean? As an independent contractor, you're going to have to take care of your own taxes. If you earned it, you're going to get paid for it. However, what they're not going to take is your Social Security tax out, your Medicare taxes. They're not going to take out any income taxes. You have to deal with that at the end of the year with your accountant. Okay, that's going to be up to you and your accountant at the end of the year to divvy that up. And then you'll welcome into the world of estimated quarterly taxes, right? Where you're going to be paying based on this year's income, last year's income, you're going to pay quarterly taxes on this year's income. It'll bring a tear to your eye. It's one of those fun things to do. You create your own time, you create your own schedule, you come in when you want to, you work as long as you like to. I got to tell you though, very hard to do real estate while you're laying on your couch watching the Drew Barrymore show in the middle of the afternoon. It's extremely hard. You got to go to work, right? You got to work hard at this. The harder you work, the luckier you get. I saw Tyler just try to see what time Drew Barrymore comes on, 3 o'clock in NBC, I think. Tyler, if you're interested. It is the worst show on television, without a doubt. But you can set your own schedule. Now, you really want to be there. You really want to learn your craft just by dumb accident. You'd be surprised how lucky you get just by showing up, right? It's an old cliche, and you hear it 100 times, but they say the best ability is availability, right? Let me give you an example. I had 2 agents that were in the back, and they were sharing an office, but one was the agent on duty. She was taking phone calls, and the other one was just doing some work. Wasn't really, she was prospecting, making some phone calls herself, but just kind of working on some stuff. So the agent on duty has a phone call, and she's working on the phone call, and she's just working with somebody who called her, and they're talking, and the past customer. And somebody walks in the front door. And our office manager, the first person at the front desk, calls back, and her name, the agent on duty, was named Rebecca, and says, "Rebecca, we have somebody who just walked in." So Rebecca looks next to her, and Gloria had just hung up the phone, and she was available. So Rebecca looks at Gloria and says, "Gloria, would you do me a favor? Just go handle him?" And Gloria says, "Sure, I'd love to, but it's you're the agent on duty." She said, "Yeah, but I can't get this guy off the phone. Would you take care of it?" "Sure." The guy came in to list his house for $1 million because Gloria happened to be there. And now it is Gloria's listing for $1 million. So just because she was there, she walked into $1 million listing. Now, Gloria, being the sweetheart that she was, she split it with Rebecca. So they were working it together. But the truth is that it was Gloria's just for showing up. Just for showing up. Got $1 million listing. It happens. Happens more than you think. Happens more than you think. Somebody gets busy, right? Can't handle it, and you're there. Hey, pick it up, right? So these things are all, you got to show up. You got to be there. You got to be in the line of fire, right? And that's how you learn things. You learn things by listening, too. You hear what's going on in the office. The doors are open. You can hear. You don't have to say much. Just listen, right? You'd be surprised. I'd rather learn something from Tyler getting yelled at than probably me getting yelled at, right? I mean, isn't that the nicest way? I can watch the expression on his face and say, "Ooh, I'm not going to do that. Let me get out of here," while he's still taking it, right? And then at the end, he'll be coming in saying, "Oh, you know what?" He'll be swearing at me and all that other stuff, and I'll say, "All right, what happened?" And as broker in charge, I got that all the time. "All right, what happened?" And they would just get it off their chest. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of what not to do, and in some cases, what to do, right? But I didn't have to take the browbeating. I didn't have to take the whipping. One of the agents did, right? Just by being there, right? Other agents will help you. Everybody is a frustrated instructor, teacher. They want to help. They really do. Other agents want to help. So but they're not reaching out for you. You got to go. So employee versus independent contractor, unlike W-2 employees who take out your taxes and take out your state taxes and take out your Medicare and your Social Security, you're going to get everything. Independent contractors can't be required to adhere to a preset schedule. They're not going to withhold anything from you, no taxes or anything. You're going to get it. So get yourself a good accountant. That's something that you may want. These all say number 1 on there, but it's 1, 2, and 3. An agent must have a buyer's agency agreement signed, 1, at the time of first substantial contact, 2, at the time agent will present an offer for a buyer, and 3, at a time agent attempts to limit the buyer's ability to work with other agents. 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, buyer's agency agreement. We are going to get it at the time we're going to present any offer. And if we want to limit that buyer's ability to work with others, right? We don't want them to work with others, so we need that sign. We want to limit them to time, right? So that is 2 and 3. Now, if we had a working with real estate agent brochure, we would want that first substantial contact, right? A firm usually seeks a 6% commission to list properties for sale. A potential new client does not wish to pay that percent. So the firm may, number one, not accept the listing because it's unfair to the other clients. Number two, freely negotiate with a prospective client. Or number three, allow the lower commission as long as all future listings also meet that same commission structure. Yeah, it's number two. It's freely negotiate. This question should probably be in the next chapter, all right, when we start talking about this. But everything is negotiable. Your own commission, you're split with the company, you're split with anybody who's selling it. It is not etched in stone anywhere. All right, so we talked about who's a client. Client hires you. Customer is somebody who does not hire you. We talked about dual agency and designated agency tonight. Fiduciary, trust and confidence. A principal is the person doing the hiring, right? Material facts. Remember the four material facts. Facts about the property itself, facts affecting the property, facts that would matter in the closing of the sale, right? The seller could be that the seller is going to bankruptcy or the buyer can't get financing, those facts. And then the fourth one is facts that are important to our clients. Question, how does not offering the lower commission on future listings not go against fair housing laws? Wouldn't they have to legally give the lower commission to another listing if they ask for it also? No. You're going to have a certain negotiable, and there are going to be expenses. If I have a $100,000 double wide, right? I'm going to have to pay some money. I'm going to have to get it advertised and do all that other stuff. It's going to cost me some money. So maybe 5% of a lower price or 7% of a lower price, what's that dollar figure going to come to? Right? Maybe if I charge 7%, it's $7,000. But now if I have a $500,000 house, my cost may only be, maybe it cost me $5,000 in expenses, whatever it costs to do all of that. And then I can charge 5% because it's a higher number. I'm looking at the dollars. How much is the net? Now, I could, if they insisted on, it's not against fair housing laws, actually, it would be against the federal antitrust laws. Unless we did it based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, handicap, and familial status. If we did it on one of those, it would be against fair housing. But if I did it, I got to look at the dollars and cents. How much is it going to cost me? What's profit? If they insist, do I have to split everything 50-50 with a co-broke? There are any rules out there that says that if I'm going to get 5%, I have to take 2.5%, and I have to give 2.5% to the person bringing the buyer? The answer is no, my friends. If it's going to cost me X amount of dollars, and that means that 3% of the commission I'm going to get is going to cover that X, they get 2, or they get 1. But remember what we just talked about? We've talked about it a little bit here. In the buyer's agency agreement, there's going to be a commission adjustment in that buyer's agency agreement too, that says, hey, look, if the seller doesn't pay me an adequate amount of money, I'm going to come to the buyer. So maybe I offer 1% on that 5% commission and I keep 4%. And Carrie says to her buyer, you're going to have to come up with some money. If we're going to buy this house, if we're going to go through with this, they're only paying me 1%. That doesn't even cover my cost. I'm going to have to charge you 2% more or 3% more of that price for you to pay me, because it's not offering enough to make it work. And they signed it. They said that that would be in their agreement. They would have to pay for it. All right, that would be what they'd come to. So yeah, everything is negotiable. It's pretty fluid. It's pretty fluid, and we're going to talk about that as we get into the next one. So yes, we don't have to. Everything is negotiable, right? As long as we didn't use the fair housing laws to discriminate. Oh, you live in this neighborhood, we charge 10% to sell in that neighborhood. Why? You got to come up with the why, right? And the why, it better not be about the people. It had better be about the house, right? Because if it's about the people, first violation is 10,000, second violation is 25,000, third violation is 50,000. And if it's a Department of Justice claim, they start at 100,000 and go from there. You've all heard of errors and omissions insurance. I'm sure that you might want to have some of that. If you get a Department of Justice fine or any of those fines for fair housing, a HUD fine, not covered under your errors and omissions. It comes out of your pocket. So feel free to do what you want to do. You won't do it twice. I can promise you that, pretty much. Fair housing violations are expensive and stupid, so don't do it. Okay, true or false? General agency is the most common in residential real estate sales transactions. General agency is the most common. If every transaction hires your broker in charge and your broker in charge is a special agent, wouldn't that be the most that we have here? Every transaction is going to have a special agent in it, right? So now general agency is more with a property manager, because you're doing a lot of things for your owner. But special agent is the most common. We buy a house, we sell a house. Boom. That's our most common. True or false? A broker of ABC Realty finds out a seller customer is moving to Canada in 2 weeks. Broker is required to reveal this information to his buyer client. A broker of ABC Realty finds out a seller customer is moving to Canada in 2 weeks. Broker is required to reveal this info to his buyer client. True or false? Yeah, absolutely, right? This is the seller's a customer. This is price, terms, and motivation. They have motivation here, and I have to tell it to my client. I'm required to tell it to my client. Okay, a homeowner assures their broker that the 20-year-old HVAC system performs properly. Yet each time the broker shows the home, the temperature is 80 degrees and the compressor is heavily rusted. The broker proceeds to tell the buyer the unit performs properly. However, after closing, buyer determines it needs a $1,200 repair to cool the house below 80 on a warm day. The agent is guilty of what? Yeah, it's negligent misrepresentation. The broker told the buyer that the unit performs properly. However, the broker never checked, right? The broker never checked. Now, if the broker checked and found out that this wasn't operating, and then he tells the buyer that it performs properly, then that would have been willful, okay? But he never checked. So in this particular case, he was just lazy, didn't confirm it, did tell it, negligent misrepresentation. Again, it wasn't fraud, it was just laziness. And laziness is not a good trait, okay? Not a good trait. Brenda has an oral buyer's agency agreement with Tom. They look at 20 properties over the course of 2 weeks. Tom eventually makes an offer on one of the homes. However, he has his cousin Earl from Spivey's Corner, North Carolina, write the offer for him. What can Brenda do about this? Yeah, she can't do a thing. She's not allowed to do a thing, right? She had an oral buyer's agency. This is why it's not great. It's okay. It helps you a little bit, but there's couple of deep pitfalls here. All right, so you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this if you don't have to. It's available to you. Billy is a provisional broker with Go Realty and works out of the Durham office. His client is very interested in buying a home listed by Brandon White, broker in charge of the Go Realty Raleigh office. Can Billy and Brandon work as designated agents on this sale? Billy is a provisional broker with Durham. Brandon is a broker in charge with the Raleigh office. Can they work together? The only time they can't work together is if they were broker, it was his own broker in charge. So Billy couldn't work with the broker in charge from the Durham office, but he could work with the broker in charge from the Raleigh office. So at the Durham office, he could not work with that. Sarah and John visiting an open house in Hillsborough. The agent shows them every room in the house, talks at length about how good the schools are, and that a Harris Teeter is opening less than 2 miles away in 6 months. At no time does the agent discuss agency or the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure. Was this a violation of agency? Yeah, in this particular case, they didn't talk about anything, right? Not based on the information provided. Broker is not required to discuss agency or working with real estate agents until the buyer's price, terms, and motivation are discussed. Not necessarily puffing in this particular case. He's just showing them real estate property. Now, let me explain to you something here. If you are taking these people out and showing them properties in an open house, and well, it's an open house, that's fine. All right. But do not take people out to see houses that you have not had them pre-qualified for. Or you'll be like one of those HGTV people who are just showing people houses, right? It's not a television show, it's your living. You need to find out pre-qualification before you leave the office. Can they pay for it or not, right? What are we looking at? Everybody wants to see $1 million house. Everybody's got a $500,000 pocket. Well, not everybody. Everybody's got a $250,000 pocketbook. But it's nice to see $1 million house. Well, why? Right? All right. So this is not, they didn't talk about anything. They didn't talk about price, terms, and motivation. True or false? An exclusive buyer's agency agreement is legally terminated once the buyer closes on the property. Yeah, right. It's a special agency contract. In this particular case, we closed on it. We did our job. Contract over. Right? Contract over. True or false? Buyer agency agreements and listing agreements create fiduciary relationships between the clients and the firms. Buyer's agency agreements and listing agreements create fiduciary relationships between the clients and the firms. Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're all about. Technically, and we're going to see this later when we talk about contracts, agency agreements, both buyer agency agreements and listing agreements, are technically, by the letter of the law, not contracts. They are hiring agreements. Now, the Real Estate Commission considers them contracts, but by the letter of the law, they are a hiring agreement. When we sign a listing agreement, are we going to guarantee that we're going to sell a house? No, we're going to promise to make our best efforts to sell a house. When we have a buyer's agency agreement, are we going to guarantee that we're going to find them the proper house? No, we're going to tell them we're going to make our best efforts to find them that house. So these are hiring agreements. They're hiring us to try to do something. All right. The Real Estate Commission does look at them as if they are contracts, but technically by the letter of the law, they're just hiring agreements. This brings us to Chapter 8. Let's talk about these contracts here, these agency contracts. Okay, before we get started, we have to understand that we're constantly prospecting for new clients, right? So we have to be very, very careful about some things that affect us, right? Things that affect us. So the first thing is if you become a realtor, now listen to me, not everybody who sells real estate is a realtor. It is a professional organization that is bound by a code of ethics, okay? If your broker in charge is a realtor, belongs to the realtor organization, then he is going to ask you or she is going to ask you to join the organization. If they're not, or you want to be a sole proprietor and not join the realtor board, you don't have to. All right, there's no rule that says that. But if your broker is, then there's usually a rule in the MLS that says that any of his particular agents are going to. So Article 16 of the Realtor Code of Ethics will kind of touch on that. All right. This says prohibits solicitation of parties in an active agency agreement. Anastasia doesn't want me calling her client so that I can solicit the business, right? I can call her up and say, hey, when is your contract over? Because I can do a much better job. And why don't you fire her and and hire me? That's not cool, right? That's bad news. We don't want that ever to happen. So if you're a realtor, that somebody could bring charges. She could bring charges against me for soliciting her client. Now, I will tell you this. If her client called me first, could I work out an agreement with her client? I could, as long as it starts the day after her Anastasia's agreement was over. I couldn't take it away. I couldn't force her to quit it. I couldn't do anything, but I could set up a contract that would say, all right, once that your current agreement is over, I'll take it over. I could do that as long as the customer makes the phone call, not me. I can't solicit that business. All right, not allowed. National Do Not Call Registry, we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about the CAN-SPAM Act. Right, we're going to talk about some rules and regulations. All right, so the first thing, the National Registry, this Do Not Call Registry. Federal Trade Commission runs it, all right? And you have to get your name on the list, protects the consumers who list themselves as wanting to limit the amount of sales calls they receive. Now, we all know what the Do Not Call list is, right? Probably most of us are on it at some particular point or another. And this was really good for landlines. We don't have a lot of landlines now, right? Very few. It can also work. There is a registry for cell phones now too. Now, listen, you're allowed to break that rule. If you have a client that you have been working with, all right, that has purchased a house from you, or you've done business with, right, and you're still doing business, obviously you can call at any time, but they closed, and they're on the registry, you can call them for up to 18 months. Or until they tell you to stop, you can call them without being in violation of the federal Do Not Call list. Okay, so you got 18 months for past business. And if anybody calls you to ask questions about a property, even if they're on the Do Not Call list, you can call them for 3 months. Okay, call them for 3 months or if they tell you do not call. Okay. So if they make inquiries or submit an application or anything else like that, you can call them for 3 months without violation. If they purchased, you got 18 months. Okay, so you do have the ability to call some of these folks. But do we violate this all the time? We're terrible at it. If a house expires, that person selling that house is going to get 1,000 phone calls. All these agents looking to list and sell their house. It's rather annoying, but it's also a violation of the Do Not Call list. If the consumer asks the broker to stop calling, they have to do so immediately, regardless of the previous relationship. It's got to be immediate, right? Stop. You're supposed to search that registry every 31 days. Supposed to go through it every 31 days, once a month, update it. Right? And here's the big one, fines on a federal level go up to $11,000 per violation. And at the North Carolina level, $500 to $5,000, depending on the violation. First offense, second offense, so on. All right. So caveat emptor, right? Let the buyer beware. You want to do this kind of thing. Just know that if you get caught and they press charges on you, it could get expensive. All right, so that's do not call. If you get emails, you can send out an unlimited amount of emails, but you have to do some things. The CAN-SPAM Act, okay, CAN-SPAM Act, Controlling the Assault of Non-Solicited Pornography and Marketing Act is what CAN-SPAM stands for. Unsolicited emails must include a prominent opt-out option. The first thing I do with a strange email that actually makes it into my not spam filter, my regular mail, is I look for the unsubscribe button or the opt-out button, and I just hit it and get rid of it. And then they have to stop, okay? So they have to give you an unsubscribe button where you can unsubscribe, And they also have to give you the physical address of the company. All right, they have to give you the physical address of the company. All right, in order for that to work. But the only way you're going to stop it, you're going to get, my spam filter is usually my Google. I got Google Mail, right? Gmail. My spam filter is usually pretty good, but I got to tell you, I probably empty out over 200 junk mails a day. So this is no joke, because your email is what? Your email is going to be over everything, right? You're going to put your email out. You're going to put your, you don't want to be a secret agent. Everybody's going to have it, and everybody's going to want a piece of it. So you got to opt out where you don't want stuff. And if it goes into your spam filter, just delete it. All right, get yourself a good spam filter. All right. These are, let's talk about the federal antitrust laws. You may hear these as the Sherman-Clayton Acts, but mostly the federal antitrust laws. Okay. And we're going to talk about these. We're going to talk about 5 things in the black, and then we're going to talk about commissions and fees afterwards. But one of them is not here. We'll talk about it more in, there's a 5th one that's not listed here, and we'll talk about it more when we get to property management, but I'll mention it here. All right. So we have group price fixing, group boycotting, group allocations of markets or customers. All right. These all come with rather severe penalties. And then we can, again, commissions and fees are by negotiations. And we'll talk about those. All right. So number 1, group price fixing. I'm not talking about my company. My company can say, we are ABC Real Estate, and we are going to charge 7% for all of our listings, period. We can say that. What we can't do is the broker in charge from ABC Real Estate, and the broker in charge from XYZ Real Estate, and the broker in charge from DEF Real Estate, and the broker in charge of XYR Real Estate. We can't all get together and say, okay, in order to stop people reducing our commissions, let's all charge the exact same thing. Let's all charge 7%. That is group price fixing, and it is against the law. All right, it is a violation of the federal antitrust laws. We can do it as a company. We cannot do it as a group of brokers in charge, as a group of companies. So this occurs when the businesses join together and set prices rather than allowing competition in the open market to establish prices. All right. Commission rates and management fees in real estate, those kind of things. Right. The next one we're going to talk about is group boycotting. What if we have a little mom and pop company out there that is going to list all of their houses for 4%? And all of the big boys, all of the big companies in the area says, let's not, if we don't work with them, they can't continue to charge 4%. They can't, they got to raise price. Or if there's a bank who's not being cooperative, maybe we get together as a bunch of real estate agents and a bunch of brokers from different companies and say, let's not hire that bank, or let's not hire that attorney, makes it too hard to close. That is group boycotting. Okay, that is group boycotting. You can't do that either. That's a violation of the federal antitrust laws. So when 2 or more businesses conspire against another business or agree to withhold their patronage to reduce competition, not using a lender, home inspector, appraiser, all right, all of those things, that is boycotting. We also have allocation of markets and then allocation of customers. Basically the same idea. One company says, okay, you take this zip code. Another company says you take this zip code. Another company says you take this zip code. So we all kind of work together to just limit the amount of choices in those zip codes. That's an allocation of markets. Allocation of customers would be, okay, you do 1 million and above, you do 750 to 1 million, you do 500 to 750, and so on. Okay, with different companies putting that all together. That is a allocation of customers. Again, against the law, you can't do that. All right. Before I give you the 5th one, just read the bottom there with the asterisk. Severe penalties for violating Sherman Act and Sherman Act antitrust laws against price fixing or allocation of markets. can be punishable by a max fine of $100,000 and 3 years in prison, as high as $1 million for corporations, triple loss value in a civil suit. Any of you got that extra money sitting in your pocket just to pay Uncle Sam for the, Now I told you there was a fifth one, and we'll talk about it more when we get into property management. But the fifth one is called, an illegal tie-in agreement. And the reason I say it's going to be in property management, what it is this: I can't, if somebody with a property wants me to manage it, be a property manager for it, what I cannot tell them is, I will property manage your property only if you go to sell this property, you sell it through our company. I'm not allowed to do that. They can sell it with anybody they wish. I can't tie them in, such as an illegal tie-in agreement. I can't tie them in because we're leasing it, we're doing the property management, that they have to sell it through us. Not necessarily true. Okay, not true at all, as a matter of fact. That's an illegal tie-in agreement. We'll talk more about that. We'll mention it again down the road a little bit. Price fixing, boycotting, allocation of markets, allocation to customers. Those are the 4 biggies. We're not allowed to do that. Those are violations of the federal antitrust laws. Are rates negotiable? Yes, they are. Now, if my firm says, no, I'm not, we ABC Realty say, you know what, we're not budging. We're a 7% company. You're going to get great service. You're going to get everything from us. You're going to get high quality pictures and videos and things of that nature. We're not budging. We charge 7%. Does the buyer have to, does the seller have to accept that? No, he has the right to go find somebody else, right? Yeah, no, I'm not accepting that. We have the right to walk away. They have the right to go find somebody else. But if it's a listing that we really want, we negotiate. Maybe it's $1 million house on the beachfront. Sure would like my sign up there, right? So maybe we cut it down to 6%. Talk to your broker in charge first. He's got to make that decision. But maybe in that particular case, right? So they can walk away or not. They can accept it or not, right? We're a full service firm. Our fee is 7% or 6% or 5% or whatever it is. And that fee is not negotiable. Now, what you cannot say is everybody around here charges 6% or charges 7%. That you can get reeled into price fixing very, very quickly. You have to talk about your company only. Do not get saying, well, the normal listing range is this. It's not true. None of it's true. All right. So you got to keep your head on your shoulders there. Keep your wits about you. So how do we earn our commission? How are we entitled to a commission? How are we entitled to this commission? The first thing we have to be is license. We have to have an active license. We'll learn when we get into Appendix A that you got to keep your license active. You have to do your continuing education and you have to keep your license active. All right. You have to be actively employed by the principal. Somebody's got to have you under contract, right? An agency agreement, a buyer's agreement, a seller's agreement. You can't remember buyer's agreement, seller's sub-agency. You got to be one of those. That's where that is, actively employed by a principal. You can't be a transaction broker. You can't be a facilitator. There's no such thing. You have to have a valid agency agreement, and it has to be in writing. Buyer's agency can be oral right up till the presentation of the offer, and then at that you need to get it written. In red here, you have to produce a ready, willing, and able buyer on terms acceptable to the seller. My client wants $500,000 for their house. They want a cash offer, 30-day sale. That's what they want. And I find them a buyer that has is willing to pay $495 and 30-day cash offer closing. And my seller says, yes, okay, love to have it. Sign the contract, let them know we agree. Now, at that point, have I earned my commission? Yeah, that's all I got to do. Okay. However, we don't get paid till we close, right? So we got to get this thing to the closing table. So now the rest of this, as we start going through contracts, we'll talk about chapters 9 and 10. We'll talk about due diligence. We'll talk about getting them, making sure all of the inspections are done and all that other stuff. But once we do that, let's say I'm the listing agent and we're 3 weeks down the road into this contract and my seller bails out, just decides they don't want to sell a house anymore. Can I sue for my commission? Yeah, absolutely. I produce a ready, willing, and able buyer in terms acceptable to the seller. You got to pay me, right? That's why I'm here. So again, right? And all professional brokers are going to be paid directly from their employing broker. All agents, all brokers are going to be paid from their employing broker now. Can't get paid from the outside. We have to get paid. If the buyer backs out, the sue for commission. Is there a timeline on when you receive the commission? You will receive your commission after the closing. So you'll have the settlement, you'll have the closing. The only time that at specific performance, somebody's gonna have to pay for it, but don't get ahead of me, Tyler. Stay with me. Specific performance is when we have a lawsuit, right? But we'll have to get paid. That'll be up to the judge again, how much we're gonna get paid. So in that particular case. All right, so is there a timeline? We're going to have the settlement date. The attorney cannot disperse any funds until we have a closing, which means they have to record the deed. They have to make sure the title is good. They have to make sure they recorded the mortgage paid. They have to make sure they recorded the new deed, and they have to make sure they recorded a new mortgage. When all of that is done, then the attorney can disperse the funds to both the seller and the agents. That's the best timeline I can give you, right? That's when you got to do it, okay? So that's when you get it. Usually it's anywhere between 30 and 60 days. It depends on how fast you're going to close. All right. So earning a real estate brokerage fee as a listing agent, you need to be active and in good standing, right? You need to have a valid listing contract, and you have to procure a ready, willing, and able buyer on terms acceptable to the seller. That's how you earn your money. That's it, right? Not that difficult. Getting through the closing, that's the easy part, truthfully. That's truthfully. You can get paid dual agency, seller sub-agency. You can have it, co-broker it. Maybe my buyer buys a house with XYZ company, right? As long as I'm doing it, they're going to pay me some money as a co-broker. Okay. I can get a referral fee. Let's say my client wants to buy a house. I'm licensed in North Carolina. My client wants to buy a house in North Myrtle Beach. I can call a North Myrtle Beach agent and say, hey, would you take care of my client? I'm going to send them up to you. Just pay me a referral fee. And we'll work out an agreement. 20, 25, 30%, whatever they're going to get. Right? And they'll pay me when they're done. They'll pay my broker will pay me. So we can do that too. Another thing we can do, if let's say a West Virginia agent calls me up and says, Sam, would you do me a favor and take my client? They want to buy a house in Jacksonville, and we want you to take care of them. You're really good at selling houses in Jacksonville, and we don't know much about them. I'll say, sure, send me the name and address, and I'll pay you a referral fee. Okay. What can they do? What can that agent in West Virginia do to lose her referral fee? What can she do to lose her referral fee? The thing that's going to happen is, as long as she doesn't come down with her clients and try to help me sell the house, because if she comes down and works with me to try to sell her clients a house in Jacksonville, what's she doing? She's selling real estate without a license in North Carolina, isn't she? It's illegal. She can't do it. She's got to stay there. So if she sends me something from West Virginia, I got to say, you want to come down and visit the great shores of North Carolina, you do so, but do not show up on my doorstep. Because if you do, I can't let you go. Or you're going to lose your commission. You're going to lose your split. I can't pay somebody without a license, right? You got to have an active license. So she got to stay where she is. Okay. She's got to stay where she is. Same thing for a buyer's agent, sharing the listing broker's fee or retainer fee or success fee.
If you like this video, feel free to share it with a friend. For more real estate education content, please subscribe to the channel. From all of us at Seacoast Real Estate Academy, thank you for watching.